welcome to Carolina Packers podcast for another video today. We're gonna do a tier list, but instead of like last time we just did solely based on roster and a couple other odds and ends, this time we're gonna predict the playoffs really
Accurately.
accurately of 100%.
That's the difference.
That is the goal as as of this point right now. So let's pull up the screen right here and let's get started.
And we're going to do a approach. We're just going to run through all the divisions and try to figure out which team from each division is going to make it to playoffs and which is not.
Yeah. So what we're gonna do then is also gonna kind of predict as well, kind of with this as well, and go by division like you said, and then maybe go back and kind of do some summing with kind of who gets into the playoffs, sneaks into the playoffs with a mediocre record or whatever. But yeah. So which division you want to start off with?
Let's just start off with the AFC East.
All right.
Should be pretty straightforward.
Okay.
So the AFC East is the Bills,
Okay.
the Jets, the Patriots, and the Dolphins.
Okay. So what if we just did playoff hopefuls and then advance them after we do everybody?
We can do that. So
Okay.
I would say playoff hopefuls, clearly the Bills are hopeful. I would say the Dolphins
Dolphins are hopefuls.
are hopeful this year.
I agree.
And I think New
think-
England is going to be a hopeful. I think,
I
we
think
might
they go
have to,
here though.
They might have to be a downgraded one, but
Yeah.
they're going to try.
I think they're going to be here, and I think the Jets are pretty
Obviously a miss.
a miss. I think they're going to be obviously a miss. I think they're going to be down in the race to the first overall pick. That's a pretty. I feel like that's
I
a pretty
think
straightforward, and we can move these around
We'll
as we
move
get
the
more
Bills
teams.
up, I think.
Yeah.
The AFC North, we have the Steelers, the Ravens,
Okay.
the Browns, and the Bengals. I think the
Oof.
Bengals
are going to be their.
the hopeful.
Are
and
they
then
probably going to be the number one seed in that division?
I would say the Ravens will probably be two
I would say so
over
as well.
both Browns and Steelers.
Yeah.
I
I would
think-
say. Would you say here then, and just kind of go
Right
based
now,
on that?
let's do that.
Let's do that.
And then I would say Steelers are the playoff misses, probably.
Okay.
And the
I can see that.
mediocre. I think the Browns, you got to go
You
mediocre
gotta go
right
mediocre.
now. Deshaun
I'd-
Watson out 11 games.
I'm okay with a 6-4. Maybe they might be. I think 6-4 is good for them,
I think so.
especially with their division looks decently hard.
I think they're
Other
gonna
than maybe
struggle.
the Steelers. Steelers are a question mark for me.
The AFC South. We have the Texans, Titans, Colts, and Jaguars. I feel like the Tennessee
Titans
Titans are the winners of that division.
Yeah.
The
The Colts.
or I would say, well, the Colts, Jaguars, and Texans, they're all going to kind of be fighting.
I'd say Colts are here.
Yeah.
I'd put them here, or I just can't. I have to put them here.
Yeah.
I'd say.
And then
The Jaguars,
they have some upside, but they have
6
not been-
wins. I'd say they're higher 6, maybe low, like
Yeah.
high mediocre team, low playoff misses.
I
But
agree.
I think they're still in the missing area.
I agree.
And then the Texans,
Probably right there as well.
I'd say
in the
here as well,
mediocre.
but
Yeah.
more like 4 to lower.
Yep.
I'd say.
For maybe the first overall pick race.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Um,
And then we have one more division. We're sweeping through this, but this is the difficult one.
the AFC West.
AFC West is
So
going to be
we
very
have
difficult.
the Raiders, the Broncos, the
Mm.
Chiefs, and the Chargers.
Oh my! To say the least.
To
of
say
that.
the least, it's so tough because we've not seen this current Raiders team or what Kansas City's
Oh my
offense
gosh.
looks like without Tyreek Hill.
I think first of all, let's just put them all into playoffs and then go from there.
So
Right?
I will say for sure
There's a
two
lot.
teams from this division make playoffs. And then
The-
I feel like Denver is most likely to miss.
Yeah, I think you have to say that. But I think the interesting thing with this though is opposed to our other previous rankings in the tier list. I feel like this is where you take into account every team in that division is going to beat up on each other,
Yes.
right? So whether that be okay, once they get into the playoffs, they're in a good shape, right? They could be in a really good shape once they get into the playoffs. But you're talking if you're the
I'm going to be honest. I think Kansas City is the weakest of those three teams.
I think so too.
Because I think you add Devontae Adams, like arguably, if not number one, a top 3 receiver to an already solid, like prior to him being added, the Raiders were probably a guaranteed 8-win team.
Yeah.
7-8 win team. I think you add a receiver of that caliber, plus they just have a pretty well-rounded team. If Josh Jacobs is healthy, he was not all last year. The Chargers, of course, are kind of a powerhouse. I think losing Tyreek Hill, it's tough to know what that does to Kansas City, but I think they, with their kind of weaker defense.
But I do not think. I'm looking at this now. So we have Bills, I think, are automatically playoffs with their division.
Yes. Bengals.
Bengals are automatically playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're talking about the Tennessee Titans are automatic. So the Ravens and Dolphins at this point are fighting for a wild card based on record.
Yes.
And I don't know. I think 3 teams from the AFC West are going to make the playoffs.
Really?
I think it's difficult to push down one of these 3 teams, and I don't think you push down the Chiefs. As
just because of their
as
record.
Interesting, just because of their experience.
Okay.
Just because of their experience, I don't think you can push down. I think the team you push down is the Chargers. As tough as that is, I think if you needed to choose between the 3 of these, and it's tough because you might have to at the end of the year because of how much these teams will beat up on each other, right? I think it's a very difficult situation because you could easily see 3 losses really for the Chargers here, even if they just split 500 with all these 3 teams. So then you're looking at, okay, there are already 3 losses. Pretty reasonable. And so you're looking at it, and then you're also looking at the Ravens, or, I mean, the Ravens are a pretty good, view on this. You look at the Ravens, they're playing, okay, yeah, they played the Bengals twice, but they could come up with a win there and then beat the other teams in the division twice and have an easy, 5 wins.
Right.
Whereas, like you say, with these teams, it'll be very interesting. And maybe we come back to that after we look at the NFC. But I think...
Well, we can address it now while it's not too cluttered.
What are you thinking? I think we put these guys up here automatically. Just get it
Sure.
Bills
and maybe are the Bengals a Super Bowl contender? They went last year.
But I think I don't. The issue for me though is I think all of these teams are Super Bowl contenders. As weird as it sounds, I think maybe not the Titans. I should say it's probably not the Titans, but the other teams in here. And maybe not the Ravens, but there's 5 teams here that I would not bat an eye be Super Bowl contenders.
Yeah.
And it's hard to put them up there because obviously we haven't seen a lot.
That's right.
But these trades that have happened make it incredibly difficult.
Yes. There's a lot of unknowns right now.
I think if you had to put another Super Bowl contender up there, it'd have to be
the Bengals.
Yep.
Because they just went.
They didn't lose any pieces.
Yep.
They stayed pretty much the same.
Should theoretically be stronger.
Theoretically be stronger, if not the same.
Yep.
And so they should be contenders throughout the entire year.
Yep.
Whereas the Dolphins, questionable quarterback. You have this with the Ravens have been kind of inconsistent.
Teams may know how to play the Bengals a little bit better, but they might be able to overcome that.
Exactly. So then, but the whole thing is we have what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 teams up here. We need to take one of these teams out and say just miss playoffs because 7 teams make the playoffs.
Well, it cannot be Tennessee.
It can't be. Yeah, exactly. It can't be Tennessee. It can't be 1, 2, 3, and then one of these. So who out of these?
I really think the Chiefs last year had a couple of bad losses.
I think so as well.
And with Tyreek Hill, I really think the Chargers are ascendant and the Chiefs are not. I think the Chiefs are the team that will disappoint.
So my question is do you think – I think it's between the Chiefs and the Ravens.
I think the Ravens have a better shot potentially.
I have to agree. As tough as it is.
Because I just remember last season the Chiefs had some embarrassing games that just seemed unlike them, and they had an even better roster than they do now.
And I think it's gonna be a very interesting season, especially with these three teams.
And I will say the Ravens have a better defense than the Chiefs do.
See,
I think.
I might be. I'm really not a big believer in the Raiders. As difficult as for me to say that, I feel like a lot of this is quarterback play, right? A lot of the making of the playoffs against these other teams is quarterback play, and I look at Derek Carr versus these other guys, and even Justin Herbert, I feel like is on the rise versus Derek Carr, that's kind of declining. And so yeah, he might have the weapons, but is he as good with the weapons he has versus Patrick Mahomes with Travis Kelce still? You know, they still have weapons there. And Andy Reid.
Yep, it's true.
And this is difficult. I mean, because Josh McDaniels is here. So you're still saying Chiefs down?
I think
Chiefs. Down here?
I think Chiefs.
This might come back to haunt us.
It might come back to haunt
But
us.
I'm glad we're having a full discussion on it, just in case it does. We had it, you know. We had some troubles.
The Raiders.
I think
the Raiders on paper, I think, are a better team, but it remains to be seen if they can put it together.
And I think the thing with the Chargers as well. I think the Chargers maybe at this point before this season coming in, I think you can look back at like last year and years past and say, okay, the Chiefs are the bad team. But I feel like the Chargers
I feel no qualms about putting the Chargers
I agree.
in. The Raiders are the one that, on paper, will they be as good as they should be?
Exactly. I agree.
Adding Devontae Adams, they should be really good. But
I would say so as well.
Whether they capitalize, tough to know.
Exactly.
But I think that this is a safe... You know what? That'll be our wild pick, right? So we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, I would have to agree with this. I think this division is going to beat each other up.
Crazy division,
and it's just going to be a very interesting situation.
A not difficult division is, if you want to move on to the NFC East.
Let's do it.
I think in the NFC East, the clear winner is the Cowboys. Then there's the New York Giants, who will be missing.
I think they'll even be fighting for that first overall pick.
I think so. As the Washington Commanders.
Washington will be mediocre.
As will be Philadelphia, I think. Or mediocre or playoff misses. Probably mediocre.
I would say either of these two could be playoff misses, but I don't think. I think the only reason they get that is because they're beating up on each other.
I know we talked about this in the prior video where we ranked the Cowboys at S. But just based on their... I really think they do have top-tier talent, but just based on their prior history, I think playoff hopefuls...
is about as high as you can put them.
I think, it's tough to put them at Super Bowl contender.
Yeah, you can't put them any higher at this point. You have to put them there.
They have one of the most solid teams in the NFL, but they have not proven themselves to be a Super Bowl team yet.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I think this is a pretty easy division to... rank.
The NFC North, also very easy, I would say.
I'd say so.
The Green Bay Packers, I think you have to put at playoff hopefuls. They've been first rounded
100%.
a couple years in a row.
Well, not first rounded every single year.
Most years.
Well, last year was first round, but then years before that, they did reach the NFC Championship game 3 years in a row.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah. So they did reach the NFC Championship game. It's that NFC Championship game getting over that.
I still think playoff hopeful. Losing Devontae Adams, they haven't really replaced him. Then you also have Chicago Bears. That's your first overall pick.
100%.
The Minnesota Vikings, I think, are a playoff miss.
I think misses.
I think they're
because you have this down here. You have these 4 wins easily for the Vikings.
Yep.
You have 4 wins easily for the Vikings, so that's
potentially, yeah.
Potentially, it should be half your wins right there. And then, of course, I think you. Honestly, Vikings always surprise the Packers one time a year. So maybe once against the Packers too. So that's pretty much 5 wins right off the bat. So I think I like this placement. And maybe really looking at the NFC, they might make the playoffs.
They might, because
They might.
three other teams. We have to
three
pick
other
from. So,
non.
you know what? Put them up there.
I'll put them up there.
Playoff hopefuls. And we'll see if
100%.
we. Yeah, I actually think that they. Well, we'll see. The NFC South. We have the
This
Atlanta
one be
Falcons.
interesting.
I think are a first overall pick race.
Yep.
The Carolina Panthers, I think, are a mediocre team.
Mediocre.
Your New Orleans is also a mediocre team.
I'd say one of these two.
I would say mediocre.
I would say
team.
mediocre.
Lower than the Panthers, in my opinion. And Tampa Bay,
Have to play.
I think you have to say
You
playoff
have to play
hopeful.
playoff hopeful.
They've got to be the ones to win that division. In
Yeah.
which case, are there two teams from that?
That's the thing. So we actually only have 4 teams right at this point. And honestly, I really think it's very difficult to see. I think the Vikings could definitely make the playoffs this year. I think going into the I guess this is South or is this no, this is West. NFC West.
Yep.
You look at in past years, I think this is Seattle Seahawks is a contender playoffs, but they haven't been in the playoffs for a couple years.
Yep.
And Russell Wilson isn't even there.
So I think a miss.
So really mediocre. I'd say.
I think they're playoff miss.
You think they're misses? You think they're that good?
Well, I guess you're right.
They don't even have
in that
Pete Carroll.
division. In that
Or they
division,
do
they
have
might
Pete Carroll.
get
Yeah.
beat up. Yeah.
They think they'll. Yeah, exactly. I think that they might even. Nah, they'll
But
be.
I
they'll be
think
mediocre.
you have to put all 3 of the remainder of
Yeah.
those teams in the playoff hopefuls, right? Doesn't that make the 7?
That would make the 7, right? So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
I
Yep.
think you have to, and of those, you have to put the Rams in the Super Bowl contender.
Yep.
Um,
I think. See, this is the thing, because
do you put the Buccaneers in the Super Bowl contender?
no,
You don't think so?
no.
Okay.
I think what's interesting here is this 7th spot is very much up for grabs.
Yes.
I think really you look at this list and you look at it and say, okay, obviously Packers, obviously Cowboys, obviously Buccaneers, obviously you have these teams that are very obvious. Alone now, injuries might happen. So there's 6 like surefire playoff teams. It's that 7th seed. Whereas in the AFC, you had 8 really probably playoff teams, but you only have 7. You have that switch. Where I would say Vikings make it in as a 7th seed. But I will say, who of these teams, because I feel like having 2 per side is a good idea. I don't think the Buccaneers are that other team. I think if you had to choose from another team here, who do you pick? Who do you pick of the other teams in the playoffs? Playoff hopefuls. Who do you think is that team for the NFC? I think it's very difficult. I think
it is difficult.
I think Devontae Adams, I think that's easy. But I think no Devontae Adams, I think it's very difficult.
I think it's very difficult then
to put them up there, exactly.
Yep.
I think I can't put the Cowboys up there.
I can't put the Cowboys
I
up
can't
there.
obviously put the Vikings. I do not think these are Super Bowl contenders. I think you're up to these 3, and I think you're up to really these 2. And
I actually think Tampa Bay.
You think Tampa Bay?
I do. I think Tom Brady has shown himself to be impossible to be underestimated. I think they still have a series of incredible wide receivers on that team. I think their defense is surprisingly good. I think you have to put them up there over the Cardinals and the 49ers.
I see what you're saying. I do. I see what you're saying.
Especially because I think LA will dominate.
I think
division.
I think barring injuries, this is all barring injuries, of course. I think these are really your dominant like
teams.
I should say really my prediction is these 2 right here. Is the Rams versus the Bills. But I think we should put 1 extra from either conference. And as tough it is to say that, I have more faith in winning the Super Bowl I think you have to say the Buccaneers at this point.
Yep.
As
I think they'll overplay maybe their paper talent.
And the worst thing is at this point I'm saying this.
Mm-hmm.
In the middle of the season, I really think the team on the rise is the 49ers.
Could be.
I think Trey Lance is going to surprise a lot of people this year.
Okay.
I think looking at him in preseason for a little bit, looking at him from last year, I think they're going to be really. I think obviously they're already a really good team. Other than them, but I really think it's here. But if we have to put another NFC team in, it's here.
Do we have a comment from?
Yeah, the comment section says Dallas or Cardinals instead. And I'm okay with the Cardinals. I'm
Cardinals
okay with the
are a
Cardinals.
really good team.
Cardinals are a very good team.
Dallas is also a solid team.
Dallas is a solid team.
And you know, Dallas should have gone a couple years probably prior.
100%.
But the fact that they have not is what gives me pause.
I would say I do agree. I think it's the Cardinals or the Buccaneers at this point. And I think if you're choosing between the two, you look at quarterbacks, and you have to do that.
I think so. I agree.
As talent wise goes, I mean you have.
And frankly, you know what? If it wasn't for this offseason, I think I would have very few reservations about the Cardinals. But I have to wonder going into this season how cohesive this team actually is based on the bizarre drama that sort of played out and whether or not that has an effect. I would be surprised if it has no effect.
I think it's gonna be very interesting because drama does play a big part, obviously, into an NFL season. And I think the more pressure you put on it, the worse the team plays, obviously.
And I think a lot of people will be watching Kyler Murray right now, especially with that now defunct contractual obligation to have to watch 4 hours of film.
I think there's a lot of weird things happening in that.
Yes.
In that room.
There's
in that
some
locker
very
room.
strange stuff.
Plus, another thing I completely forgot about, Julio Jones is on this team now.
I had forgotten about that too.
Julio Jones is another good addition.
Yes.
To this team.
He's probably 35 though.
He's like 33.
33?
So he's older, yes, he is older. But
you have to respect him.
You have to respect him.
Yep.
That's the big thing. He's just such a big guy.
Yep.
He really has such a big catch radius. It's easy for him to do that.
Yes.
But this is the weird one for me as well.
Yes.
I think this is very difficult. I think it's
again, on paper,
obviously
the Raiders I think should be ascendant. We will see though. I mean, the Raiders maybe will collapse in the actual season and we'll have to shake this up. In the same way, the Dolphins on paper should be ascendant, but maybe they'll play and it will be a disaster and we'll be putting the Patriots up there. It's tough to know. I mean, the Broncos too, with the talent they have on that team. Again, it doesn't look like it stacks up, but you never know if things start clicking for them. We might have to change some things. And again, hopefully the Panthers, we start putting that Super Bowl contender slot.
Pushing up the ranks.
Moving up the ranks. I kind of doubt it. I feel good about that bottom group. I
do feel good about the bottom group.
Don't think there's any upsets.
I think what will be interesting though too is I think any of these four teams could easily move up to Super Bowl contenders halfway through the year.
It's unusual that in the NFC and AFC we have in each one a division that has three potential contenders.
Oh yeah, and I think that's a very, like you said, that's very interesting. And I think, like I was saying, this division halfway through the year, if any one of these teams get it together or start clicking, could easily be moved above the Bengals at any point. And I think that's the joy of this later in the season, is to look back on this and say, okay, we don't need to adjust anything.
Right now, I mean, this has to be one of the hardest things. It's just right now, more than previous seasons, it seems impossible to know, just because so much movement has occurred. But that makes it exciting. That makes every game really exciting, and it's going to be really cool to see which of these teams really get it together. And I hope that there's some excitement in the sense of maybe a couple of those playoff misses are mediocre teams end up outperforming all expectations.
Oh,
that
yeah.
always makes it very cool.
Because most likely one of these teams that we have here is gonna be in the playoffs, and one of these teams
the
are not gonna be in the playoffs.
Seahawks or I'm sure the Chiefs. Honestly,
Chiefs are honestly probably gonna be up there.
Probably a very good.
Chiefs.
I actually you know what? Let's swap Chiefs
Yes.
and Raiders.
Yep.
Let's just do it.
Thank you. I like that a lot better. That makes me feel a lot better.
I don't know that that's right, but it feels right.
It feels better. It feels like
I think we will have to change it, but it feels right.
I feel like we'll have to change one of these. I think either the Chargers. I don't think the Chiefs are going to miss the playoffs. Weird.
The Chiefs had some bad games last year.
Bad games last year, but I think it was also just high expectations. There's going to be lower expectations this year.
Maybe.
And I think, again, yes, Tyreek Hill being gone is going to hurt them, but I think in the long run, I think they'll be all right.
Yeah, I guess we'll see.
Well, look what the Lions may be mediocre. I could see that. I mean,
I could say in that bad of a division.
In that bad of a division, like you're talking at least 2 wins here, because I don't think the Bears are going to win that many games. I think they might surprise you with 2 wins, but I don't think they're beating a lot of the teams that they play. Obviously,
could be. I guess Jared Goff has been around a little bit, but the Lions just they struggled last year.
And then also the
Seahawks maybe.
The Seahawks, I don't. Drew Lock isn't going to take them anywhere in that division.
No, but they have really good receivers.
But look at the division.
Yeah.
You have 3 of the teams in that division are in the playoffs, right?
Yeah, you're right.
So it's going to be
so 6 losses potentially.
The Super Bowl contenders, and then 2 teams that we're talking about being Super Bowl contenders in that division. Yeah. So that's a very difficult situation. Then one of our chats said that you have to remember that the Bengals last year went to the Super Bowl with 10 wins. So that's something that obviously could definitely happen, and majority of the time it's really not
a last half streak. Yeah, it is a lot of.
It's whoever gets hot, and a lot of the times the first seed or the number 1 seed overall really doesn't make the Super Bowl that often.
Packers are a good example.
Packers are a great example of that. As sad as it is to say, it's one of those things where it's like you look at the situation, you look on paper, it's just finding a way to win those games. And I think the Bengals are one of those teams. I mean, obviously Tom Brady is that player that just. Maybe his team isn't that talented or whatever. He just finds a way to win.
Yep.
But, yeah, I like these rankings.
I like them, too.
And I think we'll definitely look back at this midway through the season and then, of course, at the end of the year. And, any other comments?
No, I think this is good.
Sounds good. See you